So you may get a bit of delay. So hi guys, we're live on a Saturday afternoon where everyone, I'm sure everyone in England is in the pubs, and you know we are online.
Yeah, so, most probably no one is watching us from United Kingdom.
It doesn't matter. You should put us up on a big screen.
Yeah.
So, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Konstantinos, Biginas, and Vlasios, Sarantinos, both senior lecturers in the UK. I believe you both work in the UK.
Yeah.
So today we are here to discuss a little bit about the strategic management of people in the post-COVID setting. And if you were to ask me, leading and managing people, it has never been more challenging. You know, from remote work and job assignments to furloughed employees, and you know now they are re-entering, some of them, the workforce. You know, how we live and how we work has changed dramatically. And there is so much uncertainty, and that uncertainty over the last year and a half has magnified the need for employers, for leaders, for managers to inspire trust and connect with their employees on a deeper level. So if you're a leader or a manager, I think and I hope we're going to provide a lot of value. So I do highly recommend to watch our video. If you're watching us live and if you have any questions, please do not be hesitant to type them. So shall we start with Vlasios, Konstantinos, since he's the first time appearing?
Of course, of course.
Thank you.
So managing people is very challenging, and you have remote work, you have people that have some psychological issues due to COVID, due to the fact that maybe some of the family members been affected, maybe some of the family members lost their jobs. So give us a little bit of an overview. What do you think, Vlasios, should be the style of management and leading people going forward?
Well, historically, managing people is a very challenging thing. So there's no one way to manage people because both managers and employees are unique. We're all individuals. We've got our own perception, views, culture, and so on. Even more now, where we've moved from the physical space to the more virtual space, obviously we had to quickly reinvent how we do things, how the world of work is organized and how it actually manifests. I think it's how you can maintain trust, how can you maintain your working relationships, and how can you ensure consistency? Because in the past, you work as a team under the same roof, you were able to have meetings, there was that close proximity and interaction between people. Now, when everyone is working from home, or some people are working from home, some people in the office, a lot of people have lost the contact, the touch, which obviously has its own set of challenges. What I find is extremely important is, first of all, to have a good knowledge of your people. So to know them, to know their skills, to know their abilities, their track record, perhaps know what's happening with their life, because as you rightly said, they might be going through difficult situations. It's not easy for everyone to work remotely. That social interaction for some people is really quintessential, and not being able to engage with it is actually costing them. So as a manager, you need to have that more holistic understanding of what's happening within your team, within your group, within your department, and adapt and tailor your management style to support them. Of course, we need to be pragmatic in that as a manager, you might have 20, 30, even more people working with you. So it's extremely difficult to know each and everyone's personal situation. And frankly, that might not be your role. But having an overall understanding of particular problems with people and giving them the safe space to discuss and point them out, and look if there is anything you can do either formally or informally to support them. And it might be something simple as perhaps giving them a day off, or perhaps providing them with some support, some extra resources, or even, having a virtual catch up every once a week to just make sure that things are going well. It doesn't have to be anything really grand. It might be something small, but it requires the manager, I feel, to have that understanding and that empathy to go the extra step and recognize, people are people and are valuable independently of if you have them in the office or if everyone is interconnected and working from behind their screen at home. So, we don't necessarily have to acquire a completely new interpersonal skill set, but we have to perhaps adapt how we exercise and how we engage with our employees virtually. It might mean perhaps getting used to perhaps going the extra mile in terms of connecting online. But I think, the old style successful people strategies can well be adapted to suit this new post-COVID world. Of course, with the caveat that we don't know how the post-COVID world will completely look like, but I feel that the old values, of treating people with respect, being inclusive, recognizing everyone's values and their potential is essential. And if you do demonstrate that, and if you evidence that, and people can feel that, my manager is a colleague, and they are not distant, they're not really indifferent, but they care to the extent, within a professional dimension, then I think that will make a significant difference in people's perception and ability to feel more at ease. So I think that rapport between managers and staff in this COVID world is even more important nowadays. And of course, finding the right mechanisms and being resilient to adapt is essential for successful leaders in managing people and maintaining morale and productivity.
Well, you touched a lot of things there: trust, morale, productivity, culture, which is a totally different subject, organizational behavior. And I wanted to ask Konstantinos now, and if you can think maybe both from an academic point of view and also from a managerial point of view, because I'm sure you're managing people as well and tasks. Management sometimes can be lonely. And, over my experience over the last year and a half, when I work with leaders, when I train and coach leaders, and at my work as well, when I work, with managing companies and so on, is I realized that sometimes, over the last year and a half, leaders and managers had much more pressure than they used to do. So management sometimes can be lonely because you're there for your people, or you're trying to be there for your people to provide the support, to provide that sounding board. But what can you do as a manager, as a leader during those challenging times in order to be fresh, to be motivated, to not to burn out, not to be overwhelmed, to handle pressure? So how can a manager or a leader handle pressure? I guess that's my question.
Very
Konstantinos.
interesting question, Evan, and of course what Vlasios says and what Vlasios said with us, it's very close to what I think. So obviously we are in a period of transition, ongoing transition. Things change and keep changing. And literature, our experience actually shows that leaders' success under any crisis, like the current crisis, is largely dependent on their ability to process information, act on those information, and of course influence others within and outside of any organization. So we're talking about internal and external stakeholder management. So you talked about loneliness, and that's true. Nowadays, what we really miss is that feeling of belongingness, that we belong to something bigger than us. And that bigger thing is organizational culture, our common ways of doing things, our common ways of responding to situations. So that is actually something that can really alienate people and of course can really alienate managers and leaders sometimes. That feeling of doing things alone. We are alone. We are at home, and we try to manage people, lead people. So the first thing then is to maintain that feeling of belongingness, to keep that that glue that keeps people together, that organizational culture. So that means that we need definitely to exercise our interpersonal skills, to try to utilize technology as much as we can and come closer to people, right? A session that is not about work, for example, on a Friday, having a virtual cup of coffee together, discussing about things, discussing about personal issues, discussing about our common ways to respond to that crisis is a good thing. And many companies and also universities, they actually they do that. They organize some sessions just for people to join and feel that feeling of belongingness, as Maslow says in his theory of motivation. So that's very important. That is important to stick together and don't feel like alienated. So if we think about it, the COVID-19 crisis affected millions of us into a mass experiment. That is what we are doing now. It's a mass experiment in working from home. And that's like really a global experiment. All economies now begin to reopen. Companies started to feel a sense of normality. So the way we need to compete now, to act now, to behave now, to lead our people now, to manage people, I believe more in leadership, not management, to be honest. I believe that management, and especially micromanagement, is dead. Management is something that can be done by artificial intelligence. It's leadership that we need nowadays to inspire people, engage, motivate, energize, as I always say. This is actually what we need now. And the ways we need to behave now, are different. And the return to business as usual is not really what organizations, what leaders, what employees will need as we enter one of the most really volatile and complex business climates in recent history. I believe that the returning back to work, returning back to normal, to a sense of normality, will be even more difficult and challenging than what we live now, because working from home, leading from home, managing people from home is our new normal. Now, how we are going to go back to what we knew, it is a very interesting experiment, another global experiment. And I don't think that what people need now is to go back to 5 days a week, 8 hours per day. They need something different. They need a blended experience. I believe that it will give them the opportunity to feel that feeling of belongingness, exercise their social skills, satisfy their social skills, and on the other side, be able to actually maintain a sense of flexibility. So leaders need to become extremely emotional intelligent these days, become multicultural aware, culturally intelligent, and make sure that they lead in a way that really makes everyone feel like a part of that organization, of that blended organizational culture in order to move forward. People have been predicted, if we think about it, people have been predicted the end of the office since the invention of Wi-Fi and computers, right? Some of us used to work from home even before COVID-19. So for some of us, for me, for example, is not something perfectly new. I used to work with people online before COVID-19, and I used to lead and be led by people before COVID-19. So what I always thinking and what I always had in mind is that challenge, that big challenge, to create that feeling of belongingness, to really energize people that are behind their laptops, that perhaps you have never met, right? You work with people, you lead people, you're being led by people that you have never met, right? This is something that happens to a lot of us, to all of us, really. That is actually the key here. That is a critical success factor. How you can really involve, engage everyone, create your global, not global, I'm sorry, your online, your virtual organizational culture that invites everyone and makes everyone feel like an active stakeholder in the online environment. So we need our online virtual leadership skills. We need to engage people online. We need to exercise and demonstrate our emotional intelligence and understand people's perspective. Because you know something, not everyone is made and likes to work from home. There are people that find it quite stressful and quite difficult. So we need to do something for them and make explicit that, you know, we are still there and our virtual door is always open for our employees. That's very important. We need to become more approachable now than before. Okay, so that's something that will make people feel that there is someone near them to help them, to assist them when needed. But of course, now we're also in the era of empowerment. We need to empower our people nowadays. There is no other way if you think about it. We need to empower and trust our people because they work online, they work from home. We cannot really micromanage them, even if we want. What they do behind their screens, it is their own, really uh, uh, their own thing to consider, and how they do things. Let them decide. All we have to do is to set objectives, is to engage them, involve them. The way they go through objectives, the way they satisfy their everyday needs, the way they achieve the goals that we really assign them, it is their own thing to do. We need to give them, you know, flexibility and independence. We need to trust our people, and if we don't really trust our people, why did we hire them? This is something that I always believed. And now, with the online environments, it is time to really demonstrate our trust to our employees, and of course, be the right leaders to inspire them and engage them and make them feel a part of what we call our organizational culture, our digital organizational culture. And I don't think that you know, things will go back to normal after the end of the pandemic, right? During the crisis, anyone who could work from home did. And for a while, for a few months, many of us, right, many employees thought that it worked really well. It works well. There are many benefits. But after months of living on video, right, that novelty, we can say, that has worn off. So now the vast majority, or the majority, I can say, want to work in an office again, and you know, have that blended experience, right? They need the flexibility because you know, we have families and we want that work-life balance. That's great. But we know we are social human beings. We want also to exercise those skills and meet people, work with people again. And you know something, online, working online is not that easy, right, to achieve positive synergies when working in teams. I believe that without the social interaction, teams lose, you know, a main characteristic that is needed really to achieve positive synergies through teamwork. So that's how I approach it. That's how I feel it.
So I think, because Vlasis touched going back to you, Vlasis, you touched about, you know, knowing your people. So I do think that leaders need to revisit an overlooked skill, and that skill is the skill of asking questions. Because the kind of leadership that it used to be, the leader is the hero, you know, the Superman T-shirt, is not applicable anymore. And you don't really need to be the guy that knows it all. So let's talk a little bit about asking questions. And,
Okay.
uh, and sometimes, you know, I've seen some executives that they feel a little bit embarrassed to to adapt that approach because they feel they will look vulnerable in front of the people if they don't have all the answers. So,
Yeah.
what is your take on this? That's
Yeah.
my question number one. And number two, how can leaders use questions to find more about their teams and then move into engagement and so on?
Okay, let's start with the first one. I think what Costas said about, okay, if you don't trust your people, why did you hire them in the first place? So I think the element of trust needs to be there by default. It's obviously something that requires time and commitment from both parties to establish and cultivate it. But I think when you start in a new role with a new team, new people, I think you should start the process of communicating and demonstrating that you trust them right off the bat. And obviously that will be built gradually. But I think a key thing is to demonstrate that you're not guarded, you're not reserved, that you are actually keen on engaging with them, and demonstrate that you're actually going to do that. So you're going to be true to your word. I think that's a key thing. And a key component of that is asking questions, because they, as you said, a leader or a manager, is the person who everyone goes to, and is the person who is always seen to have all the answers. But in truth, a manager is a person, is a human being as well, and they have specific knowledge and specific skills. Actually, the power of a team is precisely in the collective skills and everyone's ability, and the resource you can gain through collaborating together and compensating for individual weaknesses. So I feel that a strong manager, a good leader, will recognize that they don't know everything. They are not they don't have an answer for every single bit. And actually, they have people who are experts and quite skillful in particular areas and have different insights that they can offer. And that's about diversity. That's about utilizing and leveraging your people and their talents, okay, to come up with new answers, new ways of doing things. Because if you feel that there is one fixed way, then you are shutting the door to perhaps new ideas. You are stifling people's creativity. You are, in the long run, perhaps undermining your competitive advantage by preventing, improved processes, even perhaps something that could revolutionize the way you do things. You never know. But a good manager will ask. And there is a reason they say that there's no such thing as a stupid question. Every question is valuable. Every question is important. And it might be that you will simply clarify something for that employee. It will take you 5 seconds, and it will make a massive difference in that person's job, motivation, aplomb. So just by discounting or just not having the time to be that person who will ask or be asked questions, because I think it's an iterative process. So you need to allow people to come to you and ask them questions in the process. So you build that dialogue and that communication. So once you get into the habit and people know that they can engage, then they will also be amenable to you asking them questions without the fear of I'm losing face or I'm going to be seen as vulnerable. No, actually, you will be seen as a manager who understands or tries to understand what they do and has an active interest at what is happening on the ground and wants to communicate with the people. And in that way, you can leverage everyone's talents and abilities and enhance your own leadership acumen, because that's
why I think asking questions, it is changing you from being the typical classical manager leader to being a coach. And in my coaching career, and in sales as well, I think the power of questions. Great leaders, great coaches, great marketeers, great sales professionals know how to answer right questions to go deep into the problem. And now I want to go to Konstantinos because you talked about trust, Vlasios, and trust is a big thing, because I do believe that great leaders trust their people, especially with information. So with information, because if you think about psychologically, psychological bias, humans, we have a psychological bias that we are more scared of uncertainty than risk. We are
True.
scared we are scared more of the unknown than the known risk. So, and nowadays, people, they are not like, managers the 30 years ago where you just go to the office, you do your work and you go home. I think now people are smart. You have an MBA graduate that are gonna come work for you straight away. They are going to sense if there is a problem in the organization straight away. People will sense the problem. They will feel the stress. So I think we need to make sure that we provide information, as much information as possible about the issue. Of course, sometimes, we're not going to go and show the balance sheet, but if, for example, there is conflict, I think, one way to create transparency is to make, if possible, the conflict, everybody to know what happened and to be all open about it and create that trust. So how do you create that trust? That's my question. And how do you you keep the balance of what information you're going to share, what you're going to share? Because, as I said, I think we are more scared than ambiguity rather than risk. And I'm going to turn the camera a little bit for 1 minute to adjust the light. You can give us your answer.
Of course, Ivan. Thank you for that question. And absolutely, without trust, you cannot really empower people. So, what if we think about it? What is empowerment? It's about trusting people. You trust people. That's why you are giving them meaningful roles. That's why you allow them to make a decision. Actually, you lead in that way through trust and through empowerment. If any leader thinks that has the answers to all important questions, that's not true. Obviously, right? There are no such things like super leaders. That suggests that leader is either clueless or has no idea how rapidly the world is changing. So leaders should really ask powerful, should ask meaningful, should ask inspiring questions, and make explicit that sometimes they don't have the answers. Right? That's why they're asking questions, and really solicit others, solicit their employees, help to find them, find the answers to some very interesting questions, some very challenging problems. It's some leaders, they are a bit nervous about this approach, that something, if I show to my people that I don't have the answers, then people will think that I'm weak. No, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. Research and actually my experience, because I talk with people about ways to lead people and ways to inspire people, expressing vulnerability and seeking for help is a very, very strong signal to your employees that you really trust them, right? And you are more likely to be trusted in return. Through that mutual trust, through that mutual understanding and mutual respect, obviously, you are able in the end to lead by permission. You will be permitted to lead because you indicated that you trust your people. People trust you because you express, you made it explicit that you don't have the answers to everyone. So that means that you trust them, not only to find the answers, but you also open yourself to them. So that creates a very good environment of mutual trust and mutual respect, right, between you and your people. So, in fact, if you can really learn, if you really understand, if you really train yourself how to ask questions well and to seek answers from your employees, it can really help you to connect well with your employees. Thinking together, if you think about it, when you ask together, ask questions, you invite people to think together, to go through things together, to see each other's perspective. It's like a round table discussion. It's like a brainstorming activity. So thinking together, finding solutions to problems, apart from the fact that creates that environment of mutual trust and mutual respect, can put you on the right pathway. And what is that pathway? Is to solve intractable problems, difficult problems, and sparking innovative thinking. So if you think about it, if we take it a step further, right, it's not only about asking questions. Asking questions is actually means that we are entering into a meaningful communication. We communicate, we exchange information. We don't just talk, we communicate, because sometimes the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that communication actually took place when we don't really listen to others, when we don't really ask meaningful questions. I'm talking here about meaningful, transparent, sincere communication that can lead to the ability to see each other perspectives, to reflect on each other perspectives, and actually enable what we call innovative thinking. That, of course, will lead to innovation and innovative ways of doing things and solving problems. So, in a way, asking questions leads to innovation. And as we know, innovation and creativity is a very, very important source of competitive advantage, as John Kay says in his theory of corporate success. So leaders that are brave enough to ask questions and seek for meaningful answers, they are the leaders that can really inspire and engage people. And you know something, if we don't really ask questions to our people, we are losing the opportunity to get access to their skills, their expertise, their background, their experience. This is why we hired them, really, right? To get access to what they think, their skills, their experience, their background. If you don't empower your people, if you don't trust your people, if you don't ask questions to your people, you end up taking not definitely 100% of every employee. We are losing our resources. We are not utilizing our resources to the full extent if we don't really ask questions. Although, you know, leaders say that, okay, during transitions, during times of change, you know, people expect me to be the one who really provides the answers to all questions. But we don't have the answers to all questions. When that pandemic started, I don't think that leaders knew how that thing should end. I believe sometimes during so painful transitions and when you are really facing problems and you don't really know what to do and what pathway to follow, this is the right time to empower your people, ask questions to people that you really trust, to your talented people. You need to have the right people around you, of course, but that's a recruitment and selection
Yeah, that's
problem.
recruitment and selection. That's right. So
Exactly.
it's indeed and you put listening. You know, just asking for the sake of asking, it doesn't make any difference if you don't actually listen on the spot and listen
Absolutely.
to listen, not listen to hear. Right. Um,
Absolutely.
so let me give a couple of questions, and Vlasios, maybe you can tell me what you think about it. For example, some of them I was doing some coaching with an executive a couple of weeks ago, and went through some questions that he could be asking his people. And one of the question is, let's say Vlasios, let's say you are my staff, right? So we sit down and let's have a coffee, and some of the questions is, for example, Vlasios, during the pandemic, have your career aspirations or development goals changed, for example? And that, I think, is a great question, because it can really help you understand what the employee is really thinking about. Because maybe they
Well,
say, well, the pandemic really made me understand that I want a career change. So maybe by asking this question, you find out you actually may lose an employee, or maybe tell you, well, so another question is, um, how has the Vlasios, you have been with us for a year now. You've seen the company during good times, during challenging times. So how has the crisis allowed you to work on additional projects you previously did not have the time or the opportunity to work on? And they'll tell you, well, I didn't, maybe I want to be involved more, or I didn't really have the chance, or yeah, I work with this project and I think we should do that. And the final question that you could be asking people is, it's very simple. Sometimes the most effective questions are the most simple is, where would you like to see yourself grow?
Okay. Obviously, again, it very much depends on the company, depends on the employee, individual circumstances, so demographics and so on. But in terms of development needs and how do they see themselves, kind of like their career trajectory, I think I have seen people. It's a little bit polarized. You've got some people who absolutely loved it and they want to stay and maintain the element of working from home, if not completely in some blended combination, and they would definitely love the opportunity to build their digital skills and utilize their resources and tools that will enable them to keep on working remotely and perhaps even enhance their productivity in that sense. So there might be a key area for development. But other people I've seen really want to go back, and I think they want to basically rediscover the old-fashioned way of doing things, because we are in this environment for more than a year now. So I suspect that if people go back into the office, and they will have to find the way of doing things, being in the office. They will need to know their footing, being back in meetings with people in a room, and we still have a lot of restrictions with social distancing, so it will be a transition. So I think there are gonna be development needs for both directions. People who want to maintain and enhance this virtual working environment and their ability to keep on being productive and perhaps see if they can take it further in terms of a career, and people who might want to go back and they want to feel safe and able to actually feel that sense of belonging and identify themselves with the artifacts, the physical artifacts. Here's my desk, here's my mug, here's the boiler, here's the meeting room. So I think it might sound quite simple, but I suspect quite a few people will really need to retrain themselves or relearn how we used to do things. And there is a mixed picture, so somewhere in the middle ground, in that we don't. I suspect some organizations, some employees will select for a hybrid approach, where they will be partly working virtually, partly working from home, from the office.
From the office.
To be able to juggle both, because I think, especially if you live in a large city and you've got commuting, one of the major benefits of working from home is that you are now saving yourself the 2, 3, 4 hours on the train and on the bus, and you can either make use of that time for yourself.
Absolutely.
You can actually spend more time working. Which leads me to your next question about, what can you do to be involved, to do extra things? Well, I found, this is personal, but I think quite a lot of people found that when you have to work from home, well, the boundaries between your domestic life and your work life become quite blurred. So I would find myself working longer, simply because the computer was there. I didn't really have much else to do. And
that's right.
And it felt silly. Okay, I'm on my computer. I'll check my emails. I will look at this report, or I'll finish that whatever pending detail, tie the loose ends. Why would I be watching a movie? I can do that later. So you always feel bad, or you feel you're not making very effective use of your time if you are in front of a computer screen anyways. So I think there are instances that people are actually overworking, even if they're working from home. So I think in terms of it has given people the chance to potentially be involved in more projects, because organizations also had to extend access and transform the way they operated and the business model to involve people who perhaps were more detached in the past. But I think at the same time, people need to bear in mind that being involved with more projects and having a more diverse portfolio is amazing, because that keeps your enthusiasm, but also finding that headspace where you can remove yourself from work and maintain your sanity, spending time with your family, with your loved ones, your mental health is essential to be productive, to be able to go and approach things with a fresh outlook. So I think, and which also leads us to a new area, or not new area, rediscovered area of training and development, maintaining your mental health and your mental faculties, healthy alongside your work, and make sure that you find that boundary and you kind of like follow that across is important. So in terms of where people could go from now on, well, as Konstantinos said, we live in an extremely volatile environment. We have no idea how things will pan out from now. I mean, it might be completely different from the business system in Thailand, in the UK, Greece, and so on. So we there are a lot of variables, but I think digital skills is going to be very important. The ability to use technology, but also the ability to use technology along with your people skills, and recognizing that technology is a tool, is by no means an alternative for people. As Kostas also said, AI can perhaps do some processes and can administer some specific functions, but it cannot lead. I'm not sure you can even manage, but you need the human factor, you need the human element, to the empathy, the emotional intelligence to engage with your people. Otherwise, you will just have bots running meetings. So you need that human element. So I think it's finding the best fit between using technology where technology can aid you and assist you, but at the same time honing your people skills and knowing how you can transpose them into this new virtual setting is what will enable people in those two domains, and finding the intersection where a lot of people can see their career developing. That's broadly what I feel.
Konstantinos, I have a question for you. I'm going to ask the question, then I'm going to say something, so I'm going to give you some time maybe to think, because it's a technical question, and my question is, do you think managers or leaders should protect their team from distractions so they can focus on execution? That's my question. Do you think leaders or managers should protect their teams from distractions so they can focus on execution? And this is my question. I'm going to come back to you in 1 minute, and just going to follow up on what Vlasios said. There is no one answer that covers everything. I think leaders need to look at their organization, what kind of organization they are, what industry they work on, what region, what country. And, again, from practical experience, I'll give you, something practically I know from my people is my sales team, they want to work from the office. The marketing team, the designers, they prefer to work from home. Because when you have a sales team, when they are communicating with clients, they really love the coffee machine, the banter in the office, the chit chat, the environment. They even asked me to put a TV with Bloomberg to increase the office atmosphere. The designers, which maybe sometimes a bit more introverts, a bit more technical, they prefer to work from home. So I guess with our discussion, one of the takeaways for people watching this is look at your organization, look at the needs, and decide accordingly, work from home, hybrid, or totally work from office. So Konstantinos, should leaders protect their teams from distractions, because there's so many distractions right now, so they can focus on execution? What do you think?
Right. So you mentioned the word distraction. I feel yes, they can protect their employees from their distraction. But when I say distraction, I mean practical things, practical issues, like solve all the problems that employees might face in the everyday work, and offer the right training, the right development, give them all the relevant resources they need in order to actually do what they have to do and achieve their objectives. But distraction is also about creating the need to find answers. It's not about putting your people in a protected environment where you actually take care of everything. You have to take care of those things that really distract from their ability to work. But other distractions that exist in the external environment need to be there, and allow the employees, allow your people, allow your team members to actually find solutions, find answers to those distractions, and actually find the answers to those distractions together, right? That will allow them to, first of all, reach what we call that creative thinking, and of course will allow the team to come together, because when people work together to deal with distractions, to deal with problems, deal with issues, then they become more united, they become stronger. So a leader really should provide everything that employees need in order to work well. So I'm not talking about distractions like we have no internet, or we don't have a laptop, or we don't have a place to meet or something. Those distractions should be eliminated. That's out of question. But when it comes to working together, give your people the freedom, the independency to really think about contemporary issues, contemporary distractions, things that exist in the external environment, and try to find the solution themselves. Because this is really what team working is all about, and this is how, like, teams generate positive synergies. We work together, we understand each other's perspectives, we deal with distraction. Our world is full of distractions, right? Every day, every time of the day, we deal with distraction, and we have to actually solve problems. For example, I am in the teaching team. Sometimes we don't have very good connection, or let's say Microsoft Teams platform doesn't work well. So what do? I cannot ask my leader, there is a distraction there. What should I do now? We need to find our own alternative ways, perhaps use another platform, or communicate with our students in a different way. So we try to create a community of common practices within the team and try to find solutions ourselves, right? What the leader should do is to provide the right environment, eliminate any practical issues, any practical problems. But it's not like every time we need the answer to the question, every time there is a distraction, we need to actually ask our leaders what we should do, how we should deal with that problem. No, we need to have the opportunity, the time, the power really to solve things ourselves, right? This is actually my approach. And through that process, teams become more united, more productive, and more creative. I said our world nowadays is full of distractions, and it would really take a lot of time to seek for help from our leaders to actually find the solution. It will make the environment too bureaucratic, and we will spend time asking questions instead of spending time, utilizing time to find solutions to the problems and move forward. This is actually my approach, and this is what I always enjoy as a person that I lead other people, or as a person who actually I am a part of a team, and I always enjoy that flexibility. I always enjoy the opportunity to find solutions with my teammates and myself as well. That really empowers people. That is really another way to empower your people. I'm not talking about not caring about your employees, but I'm talking about giving them the opportunity to work together and find solutions together. And of course, because we talked about asking questions to your employees, so you really create distractions yourself sometimes by asking the right questions. So, for example, okay, what we do about the changing environment and the emerging unmet needs that exist in the external environment. How could we leverage our new resources, or how we can move from standardized approaches to more localized approaches, and so on. So focusing your questions on these kinds of new and big opportunities, in other words, creating distractions yourself rather than focusing on the existing activities of the organization, can help you to sidestep your fear as a leader that questioning will be seen as a sign of weakness. So if you ask the right question, if you really focus on things that emerge at the moment, we're talking about new emerging problems, emerging issues, we can call them distraction, then obviously you can invite their participation, and again, You show that you really trust your employees. That's why you are asking questions. That's why you are really creating distractions. It's not really you that creates distraction. It is you that really communicate about the distractions and try to find answers through your employees. So my point here is create the right environment for your employees. Make sure that all practical issues, practical problems are being solved. Make sure that you know all your employees are fully motivated because they do something meaningful, something that they do like, and allow them the time to really deal with distractions themselves and find the solutions. That will increase their confidence and, of course, will make the team even more powerful. And, of course, this is a way to reach positive synergies. But again, ask questions, questions that are also relevant to the emerging needs, not only to the existing needs of the organization. That is actually my approach. And if I reflect on my experience, that really worked well and really created some very good results.
So another 5 minutes, and we talk. I think as we see in the news, there is. I mean, I think this new normal is becoming never normal. I mean, technology, it was kind of, was coming into lives, but I think this pandemic has really pushed everyone to adapt very fast. And I think now is the time for leaders, for organizations to reflect and to decide how can they make this new reality work for them. And I think if there is no trust in leadership, remote work is extremely difficult. If the employees do not trust, if there is no trust in leadership, and I think if we were to create a framework of, okay, I'm a leader, I have a company, 10 people, 20 people, where do I start? How do I recreate my culture? How do I redesign my culture? How to re-empower my people? If we were to make a framework, I think the first thing that we should put at top, if we were to create a pyramid, is their trust in leadership. Because if there is no trust in leadership, remote work simply is not going to work. So this is from my experience, both practical experience and from coaching. And unfortunately, I see it very often. I see it very often. It is not enough trust in leadership for different reasons. It's a totally different topic, separate topic. We can talk about it maybe in another video, because trust in leadership and executive presence and executive leadership is a totally different concept. So this is what I wanted to share with you, because we mentioned about trust a few times and so on. Because a manager can do, you can work from home. I'm going to buy you a desk. I'm going to upgrade your internet. I'm going to buy you a new laptop. I'm going to buy new screens. But if people really don't trust you, if they know that you're doing something else behind and you are backstabbing people and the culture is very toxic, it's not going to work out. Yeah. Vlasios, your last thoughts about managing and leading teams? Couple of minutes, and then Konstantinos, you can take over.
To follow on from what you just said, which I think is, I fully agree, that's where the difference between micromanaging and leading lies. And people who do not have the ability to see the difference, and they feel that they're actually leading when in actual truth they are micromanaging, and they used to do that in the physical space. They will try to replicate that in the virtual domain, and they might be even more insecure because they will not be with the people in the same room to actually watch them. And as you said, the reinventing your culture and removing the toxicity is going to be extremely important to make any virtual working environment functional, productive, and actually sustainable. I think there's going to be a lot of discussions going forward in how we can do that and how we can create that framework. But I think you touched on something really crucial in terms of the timing. And now it's really opportune for businesses to think, because now, especially when we're approaching summer, and there's going to be, I think, a betterment in terms of the situation, and there is the space to actually make contingency plans going forward for 6 months, a year, 5 years. Now, this is extremely crucial for organizations and leaders and staff to sit down and say, okay, what is going to be our business model? How are we going to operate? What might go wrong? What are we going to have as a backup plan? And how are we going to be able to actually roll that plan out very quickly? Because as you said, last year, March 2020, organizations literally had to scramble to move from their premises into this online setting with a lot of hiccups and a lot of issues. So I think that now it's a time to actually think and plan. Thank you.
Think and plan, and this is the time. Absolutely agree with you. Thank you very much, Vlasios. Thank you. Konstantinos, final thoughts. You need to let me unmute you. You are unmuted yourself.
Okay, great. What Vlasios said is absolutely correct. It's about planning ahead, right? And implement what we call scenario planning analysis, right? Because future is uncertain, future is volatile. We have to work on and develop scenarios for different possible future outcomes, because the future is not certain. What is going to happen, as Vlasios said, in 6 months, 9 months? We have to start from the worst case scenario going to the best case scenario. So what if we have new, let's say that is not going to happen, but what if we have another national lockdown in the United Kingdom or in Greece or in Thailand or whatever the country is? So how we should deal with this? What are our responses? What if there is like the medium scenario, right? There is a sense of normality, but still some cases it's not exactly business as usual. And what if things go back to normal and we are actually 100% back to normality? So how we're going to deal with all those difficult and different situations? Because returning back to normality is a transition. It's not easy, right? Requires a lot of effort again, because what is the new normal? Is it what we used to know? No, it is not exactly what we used to know. There is another new normal. So again, there is another transition. So we need to make sure that we plan ahead and think about different possible future scenario. That is actually what leadership is all about, right? Be forward thinkers, strategic thinkers, and have the answer. Here is where leaders should have the answers, right? What if that happens, then what? So this is something that we need to really think, and this is the right mindset for all leaders. And of course, to go to another topic, is that leading by permission and not by authority is also the key. All leaders need to prove their credibility, right? And by proving your credibility, you are earning trust and respect from your employees. So leading by permission will allow you to go through some drastic changes sometimes, lead effectively through changes because people believe in you, are inspired by you, and of course, you will minimize any resistance to change, because from now and for the next months, next years, a lot of transitions will take place, definitely. So we need to lead by permission. We need to inspire our people to follow us in order to minimize any resistance and make the transition process from point A to point B and freeze, change, refreeze, right? Less painful. It's very important. And of course, just a final point on when it comes to asking questions, because we touched a lot upon this topic. Anxiety, as we know, can run really high in volatile times like today. By asking the right kind of questions to your employees can help people overcome some of their fears. Why? Because they understand they are not the only ones who really don't have answers to questions. But you know something? Let's work together to find answers to the questions and really define our future and our way through painful and uncertain times. So this is actually, those are my key takeaway points, and points that I really believe that are very crucial for every leader nowadays and for every entrepreneur nowadays that deals with limited resources, and of course needs to make sure that takes the best out of all resources, especially human resources.
Excellent. Yeah, I think, colonial style of management, it doesn't work anymore. And as you said, you have to have the permission to lead. And it starts even from the interview. When somebody goes for an interview, the way you scan the candidate, they scan you as well.
Mm. True.
And it is something that I think Tim Clark, I think he was the previous CEO of Emirates, the airlines. He said that, most of the senior management, well, a lot of senior management at the airline are foreigners, right? And they operate
Mm.
out of Dubai. And he said, when we come here, we cannot come here with the attitude of the Westerners who will show the Middle Easterns how to do things, because it's a totally different culture. So he
Absolutely.
said, we don't have a colonial style of management. It is a blend of local and global approach.
Think global,
So,
local, as they say.
that's it. That's right. Absolutely. And, I think sometimes leaders need to think very practical as well. For example, if you're going to switch, I'm talking from experience here, some people to work from home, I think the first question that you should ask is, does this person has the financial means to set up and sustain a home office? And you will be surprised, some people don't.
Mm. True.
Some employees don't. You go to Hong Kong where the houses are not very big, unless you're super wealthy. The whole family lives in a two-bedroom, one-bedroom condo, and living room and home office and kitchen together, where the schools are closed and the kids running around. How are you going to attend a Zoom meeting with the shareholders? So start from this. I think I suggest, some leaders to start from really practical questions. Another question maybe, is your workforce digitally fluent? And you will be surprised that sometimes people are not.
True.
So thank you very much, Vlasios.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
You will
Really,
go to the pub now, I know. You're
no,
ready.
no.
You are.
It's still quite early in the morning here, so no, I think got plenty of
That's
work to
right.
do. Uh, but thank you for the. What time is it over there?
6:20 in the evening.
So
Okay.
it's the right time for a pub for you as well, then.
It's
Evan.
never too late or too early for the pub, Vlasios.
Oh,
Wow.
soon, soon. Thank
Uh,
you very much for the
Con-
opportunity and
Thank
hosting
you.
this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your valuable input, as well as Konstantinos.
Thank you,
Konstantinos
Evan.
is becoming a resident speaker now. He will be doing
Exactly.
it himself.
Yeah, yeah. Next time I will run the discussion. I will
So
be
we could,
active.
this kind of discussions, they can be as academic or as practical as the audience want them to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
it's their decision to listen it, hear it again, write down notes, and then practically go and implement them or try. So we try our best to support and to share our experience from our tips, our suggestions, our experience, which comes from experience. So thank you guys. I wish you a good weekend.
Thank
You
you.
too, Evan. Thank
Take
you,
Take
care.
and
care.
we will be
Bye
in
bye.
touch.
See you later.
Bye. Bye. Bye, everyone.